something you told me a long time ago when I asked you, what should I invest in? This is when I was first thinking about gold and silver. You said, first of all, you have to invest in what you understand. So study. And then you said, invest in what you can afford. So always look at your budget and see what, what your budget allows. So I'm glad you said people need to study the bond market before they just dive in.
Absolutely.
Yes. So go ahead. We're going to say something.
I was going to also mention the yen carry trade. So you have a lot of investors have been investing in the yen, the Japanese yen, because their interest rates have been close to zero for the last 30 years. Okay. Now, what they do is they'll get loans and get money from the Japanese market, and then they'll invest that. They've been, for the last 30 years, they turn around and invest that money in the stock market in America and invest in also different assets in America. Well, last year, and this been continuing on this year, Japan has been increasing their interest rate, right? So that decreases the strategy, I'll say, that the companies have been having, and the profitability of the companies buying into the US market. So now you have a lot of investors, foreign investors, that are pulling their money out of the US stocks and investing it back into Japan and also into other countries. So this is why when you talk about the stock market being a bubble, this is why people are considering it to be a bubble, because a lot of companies, whether it's foreign countries that are using the yen carry trade to invest in the stock, or it's the US government, or it's US corporations reinvesting in their own company, buying their own stocks. This has created the inflation that we see or have seen over the past 3 to 5 years. And people are expecting that real soon there's going to be a correction in those prices.
Okay. So that we're talking about the stocks and the bonds. So now we know that we need to be leery, or at least educate ourselves on the bonds. And you're saying maybe the same about the stock market?
You have to look closely. Yes, you have to look closely at the stock market and decide what you want to invest in. Right now, the S&P 500 is, that's the tech stock market. Okay. It's been doing well for the last 5 years, but we've actually had all-time highs for the last 3 years consecutively. So that doesn't normally happen. And usually after a certain point, you do hit a recession. And so people are expecting that a recession is right around the corner, if we're not in a recession, right now.
I've heard people say that they've actually lost money in their retirement accounts, and I'm assuming that the stock market is attached to their retirement accounts. Can you speak a little to that? Why is that happening?
Okay, so yes, retirement accounts are connected to the stock market. Okay, right? That's actually what they're invested in. So you put money into your IRA, to your retirement account, and your company invests, a portion into your account as well. They're investing specifically in the stock market, but generally the employees don't know what stocks they're invested in. And oftentimes they're invested in junk stocks, right? Not the stocks that are doing exceptionally well, like the AI stocks. So that actually helps to prop up the stock market as well, because you have all of these retirement accounts that are attached to the stock market. So that boosts the stock market. But when you have any type of crises, then you'll see it in your IRAs, because it will affect the stock market and thus affect your IRA.
And you have no control over that, sounds like.
Well, that's the thing is, when you have an IRA attached to your company, it's a passive way of investing, right? Versus an active investor actually knows the stocks that they're invested in.
Okay.
Right. So most people don't know what their IRAs hold, right? Which they generally hold stocks and bonds. But if you don't know what you're holding, then you don't know why it goes up and you won't know why it goes down.
So one of the things that I've been telling people is that if they are able to, because everybody can't pull their money out of the stock market, and I'm not telling them to do this, but if you desire to roll over your stocks into a gold IRA or your IRA, your investment to a gold IRA, you can. And there are companies like Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company that will allow you to do that. If you're interested in doing that, then I would encourage you to give Andy Scheckman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, a call, or any of their brokers at 952-929-7006, or you can send an email to info@milesfranklin.com. Let them know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you so you can get the best prices in the industry. Now, while you're getting a gold IRA, this program allows for you to actually take some of the physical gold into your possession. So that's just an idea out there if you are interested in taking your IRA and rolling it over into something that's a little more tangible, that's attached to the gold markets. Dexter, where do we go from here? We talked about stocks and bonds, but I know you had a lot to say about what you called the everything bubble happening. What would you like to take a discussion from here?
Well, I would say that the soundest investment right now is hard metals, all right?
Okay.
Precious metals, whether it be gold, silver, and copper. As we see, the copper prices have been going up this year substantially.
Not only are they going up, in many places you can't even find it. They don't have any copper available.
Because there's a run. Everybody's running to the precious metals. And again, financial advisors almost never, for the last 30, 40 years, almost never advised their clients to invest in hard metals, right? Because it does the economy well for everybody to be invested in the stock and the bonds, right? That's where everything moves up. And then when you're invested in hard metals, that's secure for you, right? As an investor, that's a secure way of knowing that your money actually has value. So now, right now, everybody, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people are fleeing outside of the stocks and reinvesting at least a portion or a percentage amount into gold, silver, and copper. So that would be the sound investments that the people are flocking to currently.
Now, why metals? What's so significant about metals like gold, silver, and copper?
Well, they have a store of value, right? We know the value that they have, right? We know that they have practical use versus Bitcoin, for example. No one can tell you the practical use for Bitcoin. They say, okay, we have Bitcoin mining stocks, but who mines Bitcoins, right? And how can you use them practically, right? It's a financial instrument that was created similar to the dollar, and the attachment to the Bitcoin is your imagination, but it's not attached to anything aside from that.
Okay, so hard assets, and you said something to me earlier. I think it was either today or yesterday. You said if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Absolutely.
So we talk about Bitcoin, we talk about stocks and bonds. Those things, they have value, but you know what value silver and gold have, and you own it when it's in your hands.
Absolutely. Also, it's actually a good time to look into the housing market, right? Because we've actually been seeing a deflation of the housing market over the last year. So had the housing market hit all-time highs a few years ago. They were at ridiculous prices because we had foreign investors, we had corporations buying up all of the houses, which skyrocketed the housing market, created the scarcity, as well as the immigration, right? We had tens of millions of new immigrants come into the country
Right.
over the past few recent years. They have been since deporting a lot of people, and this is causing the housing market to cool down. So we've been seeing, if you look at on Zillow, for example, they said about half of the houses on their market have taken decreases over the last year. So if you look on Zillow, you'll see like 10%, 20% decreases in the prices, and that's expected to continue.
So we heard that before about a housing bubble. Now, what does that mean exactly? Is that what you just explained?
Yes, if you remember the housing crisis in 2007,
Mm-hmm.
right, when the housing market crashed, right, it dropped the prices substantially, right? But that actually meant that a lot of people lost their wealth, because in America, most people's wealth is stored in their house, right? It's tied to their
Okay.
house.
Okay.
So the majority of their wealth is the ownership of the house. So once you lose that house, that means that you've lost a lot of your wealth, if not all of your wealth.
Mm.
And then also, if the housing market, so say you bought a house 3 years ago for $300,000, and you go to sell that house today, that house is not going to sell for $300,000, right?
Okay.
You're going to have to sell it at a much cheaper price. And so that means that you're going to take a hit, right, financially. And if for the new buyers, it's good, but for the sellers, it's a problem.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of it being good for the buyers, Sister Linda said, yes, the immigrants are losing their property now due to deportation.
Yes.
Now, how is that a benefit for Americans, though?
Well, you have supply and demand, right?
Okay.
So when there's a high demand for any goods,
Mm-hmm.
then and there's a scarcity, right? So when we're talking about the housing market, for example, if you have an influx of people coming to buy the same amount of houses that we have, then the prices of those houses are going to go up astronomically. Now,
Okay.
when people leave those houses, the prices are going to go down because the demand goes down based on the fact that there are fewer people that are needing those houses.
Interesting, because this is an opportunity for people who have held cash.
Yes.
Now that immigrants are leaving those, because some of them had whole neighborhoods, and we pray that they do well in their countries, but they had whole neighborhoods. So there are businesses that are vacant, commercial property that's now vacant, houses, apartment complexes, whole apartment complexes that are vacant. So I would like for you to speak to how, even in the middle of a recession and depression, if you are prepared, you can, and avail yourself, you can actually accumulate wealth.
Well, Warren Buffett over the last year has been advising people to store cash, to hold cash. That's
Okay.
because when a recession hits, when a depression hits, the prices of most goods goes down substantially.
Mm.
But when you have a liquidity crisis that we're in right now, for example, where most people don't have cash, then those who hold the cash will be the buyers, and you can buy things for pennies on the dollars. So even the stocks, right now, I would say don't or be leery about investing in the stock market, the AI stocks, I'll say in particular, not the stock market as a whole, but know what you're investing in, and then give time for these stocks that are high priced to correct, because
Mm.
there will be a correction, and you'll be able to invest in these stocks at pennies on the dollar.
Very wise, because a lot of us are trying to get rid of the USD. we've heard information. I've said it even that the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all the nations that are attached to the BRICS bloc, they have stopped trading with the USD. So some of us are like, well, let me get rid of this United States dollar, which is collapsing, is declining in value. But I hear you saying that Warren Buffett and you as an economist also suggest that you hold on to some of the cash so that you can buy up assets like houses, real estate, land, some of these commercial properties that are now vacant due to the immigrants being deported. Very, very wise. Very, very. We'll talk about that a little later about what your portfolio should look like. So I wrote down there that cash should be part of your portfolio. But before we go into that, what else would you like to talk to us in terms of the everything bubble? I just think that's a very fascinating asset.
Well, just that everything
is very fascinating concept.
Everything is tied into each other, right? When we talk about the AI stocks, all of these companies are investing in each other, right? So I sent you that picture where you have Nvidia is tied to OpenAI. OpenAI is tied. They're all taking the same money.
So what is it? Which one is it? OpenAI, that one?
Yes.
Or Shadow. Okay, OpenAI. I'll bring it up. Family, if you are enjoying this conversation, we have Dex Lattimore, who is an economist, and you have a degree in international business. Is that right as well?
Yes, okay. A concentration in international business.
A concentration in international business. This is who we have on our show. If you're interested, he is working on a book. If you're interested in supporting his work, you can send a donation to $Dex Lattimore, and we'll show you where you can find his work. So I'm going to bring this up for you, Mr. Lattimore, here. This is the right one, the right image?
Yes.
Okay.
So all of these companies are investing in each other, right? So they're not generating the money that they're perceived to be generating, because what they're doing, they're taking whatever profits that they have from one company and tying it to the next company. So if one company does poorly, that's going to affect all of the companies, right? Then you have, if every company is expecting for AI to boost their productivity and it doesn't happen, then again, that's attached. Those companies are attached to the AI, along with the stocks being attached, the general stock market being attached to AI, right? Over the past 3 years, once AI hit the scene, everybody expected that it was going to boost production substantially. Companies have been reporting over the last few months that they have not seen any increase in productivity due to AI. So that means that a lot of people are expecting that AI is not going to produce the outcome that we're looking for.
Wow.
Right. So if everything is tied to AI, if our stocks are tied to AI, if companies are tied to AI, and the expectation of productivity in the country is tied to AI, then we need for AI to do well in order for our economy to do well. And if it doesn't, then we can see a crash, and it could happen as early as this year.
Wow. Okay. Do you want me to go into the next? Go ahead.
No, you also have shadow banking, right? Okay. So when you look at the banking institutions, you have the regulated banks, and then you have shadow banking or financial institutions where the typical bank has to follow regulations, very specific regulations and rules, in order to loan out money, for example. Now you have shadow banking or private credit companies or institutions where they are low risk credit. So the banks will loan money to the shadow banks or to private companies. the
That's
private
my
credit.
first time hearing of this. Go ahead.
Yes. So
Okay.
now the shadow banks, though, they're low risk, but they loan money because they have less regulation, right? They don't have to abide by the same rules as the banks. So they take money and they invest that money. They loan that money to more risky companies, right? These more risky companies, they call garbage corporations, right? They are very high risk, and we've been seeing over the past maybe 4 or 5 months, we've been seeing a domino effect occurring in the shadow banking, where they loan money to companies, and these companies have been going bankrupt, right? So you have a company called Tricolor, you have First Brands, you have Sonder Hotel, you have these companies have declared bankruptcy over the past few years, over the past couple months, and that's an indication uh, in the financial markets that there is a lot of turbulence in the finance industry. Now, much of these companies, these private credit companies, are financing the AI revolution. Right? So they've been pouring a lot of money into AI and have not been seeing any results, as well as they've been practicing unsound financial practices. Right? For example, what First Brands did, they went to a company and got a loan, right, with collateral. They said they have $40 million in collateral, for example. Well, they didn't just go to one financial institution. They went to a plethora of financial institutions and pledged the same collateral. So now what happens if you have 10 institutions that are expecting that if you default, they can come and collect your collateral? If they're all expecting to collect the same collateral, they obviously cannot. So you then had First Brand declaring bankruptcy because they could not pay their debts. Right. So all of the banking and all of the AI is connected to each other, and it's again a lot of money being pumped into the markets, into the financial institutions, and the bill is coming due, and nobody has the money to pay these bills.
And what happens if they don't have the money to pay the bills?
They go bankrupt.
Okay.
So again, a lot of these companies have gone bankrupt. Apollo is another company that is a private credit lender. One of the companies that they lend money to just reported that they lost $140 million just
Wow.
a few days ago. So again, these companies are really taking it on the chin because they're not able to receive the money that they lent out.
Which means they're going to continue to lay people off.
Yes, and we're going to very possibly see the correction in the stock markets, where we see a crash in the stocks, kind of
What
like
is that? Kind of like what?
the dot-com bubble.
And I was going to ask you that. That leads me to my next question. What does it look like when the stock market collapses?
Well, the prices go down substantially, right? We
Okay.
see 40-50% decrease in the prices in a matter of a few days, few weeks, or a few months. And then it takes years for the stock market to catch back up to where they were when they hit their highs.
What happened during the dot-com bubble?
During the dot-com bubble, every company attached .com to their company because everybody was expecting that the internet was just going to, take over the world and change things and make things so much more productive. which it did overall, do well for the world. But all of the companies, just because they added .com didn't mean that they were a productive company. So we saw thousands of companies go bankrupt and their stocks go to zero because they did not have any value. And so in the beginning, immediately people as long as you saw .com at the time, you thought that the company was going to do well.
Right.
The same way we're expecting that Tesla, Meta, Google, Nvidia, we're expecting that their stocks and their companies are going to do well. But the question is, Microsoft, for example, Microsoft's stock shares have gone up over the last 5 years substantially. But can we say that Microsoft software is any more productive than it was 5 years ago?
No, I don't think so.
Generally not.
Okay.
Right. So even Google or Meta, Facebook, is not actually increased in productivity. It's not increased our standard of living. Right. So at some point, people are going to revalue the companies, and they're going to also pull their money out of these stocks and invest it into something else. Now, this is the reason why we're seeing the skyrocketing in the gold and silver industries and the precious metals, because people are fleeing the stock market because right now it's very turbulent, very questionable as to what the future holds for these stocks and the bonds. And when you talk about the bonds, countries are fleeing the dollar, right? They're selling off their treasury bonds. And so you talk about investors in the country, but you also talk about foreign investors, and then you also talk about foreign governments. They're all fleeing the dollar and going into the precious metals.
We had seen a rise in precious metals. I think gold had gone all the way to 5,500, almost 5,600, and silver had climbed as high as $119 an ounce. Now I'm watching this here, gold and silver going down. Silver is $85 an ounce. Gold is $4,809 an ounce. What can people are going to wonder what's happening? Do we have any idea why we keep seeing this fluctuation?
Everything is volatile, right?
Okay.
And then when right now over the last year, everybody has been flooding to gold and silver.
Right, right.
So at a certain point, you will have sellers, right? So those that buy into it, the more buyers that you have, the more scarcity that you have of the product. So
Right.
then the prices go up. But when you have a sell off, then the prices go down. So people are uncertain about the price of gold because we've not seen this price before. Right? These
Right.
are historic numbers that we're witnessing. So
Yeah.
people are questioning whether this is sustainable. But the
Mm.
reality is that we're moving into a new financial era, right? Where the dollar is quickly becoming not the is not being used as the currency, the foreign reserve currency of the world, right? So when people flee the dollar, it's the same thing that happened when the British pound lost its status as the currency, right? People fled that dollar, that currency, and went to something else. Well, what they went to from the pound, they went to the US dollar.
Okay.
Now people are fleeing the US dollar and going back to gold and silver, which has throughout history has always been the um, what's it?
The standard, the reserve currency
There you
standard.
go. The
Hmm.
standard.
That's
And
why
so
you
we're going
see,
back to the standard. Go ahead.
absolutely. And as you said, the whole world is rushing back towards gold as money. King's World produced this article February 16, 2023. These central banks have been secretively accumulating gold behind the scenes in record numbers for the last 10 years that we know of.
Mhm.
So now that we see the silver and gold prices fluctuating and decreasing, some people are panic selling. What would you suggest people to do if they see these prices going down like we see today?
Buy the dip. Because
Okay.
they're not going to decrease too much more, right?
Okay.
There has to be a correction, right? There has to be a balance out, and so we're witnessing that correction, right? But now, if it's only been 1 year that people have been investing in the precious metals
Right.
in our lifetime,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
excuse me, which that means that more people over this next year and over the next 5 years are going to invest more heavily into the hard metals, as well as more governments, right? We haven't we we haven't had a time period over the last 80 years where governments bought gold and silver.
Mm-hmm. No, they were
Uh,
saying gold and silver is a relic that it's outdated.
exactly. So that means that if they're now going back to the standard of storing gold as their reserves in their reserves to peg their currency to, right? They're using their gold and silver in their vaults to say that our dollar, our currency, has value tied to it based off of our hard assets. So
Mm-hmm.
if that is going to continue to happen, which we can expect it to continue because everybody is fleeing the dollar, so then we can expect that the prices of gold, silver, and copper and other precious metals is going to continue to increase as we see after this correction, right? So prices have been dropping, and that is good for investors because it's always a good time to invest, right? And
Yeah,
this
and
is a
also, go
perfect
ahead.
time to invest in those metals. Go ahead.
And I will also say, to add to what you're saying, this is a perfect time to invest in those metals. Is that sometimes we say, but I can't, it's not in my budget. What I want to encourage people to do is, instead of saying I can't, ask yourself, how can I? Because there is an inexpensive way to invest in gold. You can buy gold back. So gold RM notes, which is 24 karat gold pressed onto a note. And right now you can use it to buy local goods and services in 50 states, across the 50 states. Right now, have you know about the gold RM notes, Mr. Lattimore?
Yes,
Real gold.
they're a great investment. And we also have to change our mentality, change our mindset.
Okay.
Uh, Instead of saying, like you said, instead of saying that I cannot, you have to ask yourself, how can I?
Mm-hmm.
And we look at people get income taxes, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
When you get your money, this is a perfect time to invest, right? Don't
Come
go
on
buy
through
a
here.
whole bunch of fancy clothes, all right? Don't buy another car unless you need it.
Yes.
You want to invest in sound money.
Mm.
So
Here's what a
look
gold
for the
back looks like.
opportunities.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm a hold that woman. Look for opportunities. These are gold backs right here. Here's one is an Arizona gold back. There's Florida gold backs, Utah gold backs, all type of gold backs right now for $9.68. Okay, that's one way you can buy gold. But we've been talking about gold backs, Dexter, for almost about 5-6 years. No, since 2017. Back then they were $1. Now they're $10. So what would you say again when it comes to availing yourself of opportunities? Please say that again and let us know what you mean.
Yes, find the opportunities. The same way that people found the money to buy Jordans and
Mm,
buy all of these expensive clothes and buy a whole bunch of jewelry, the money's there.
mhm.
you just have to ask yourself, are you willing to invest? Right? We are a nation of consumers. We want the nicest things. We want to buy everything. But when it comes to investing, we're hesitant to invest. All right. Once it's time to invest, we say, oh, I don't have any money. But look down at the pair of shoes that you have on and ask yourself how much those cost. Or the outfit that you have, how much did that cost? And if we're able to spend hundreds of dollars on one or two outfits or one or two pair of shoes, then we have money. We just have to change our mentality and become investors and not just consumers.
Somebody asked, how much would you need of the gold backs? I would say, like Mr. Lattimore always says, what you can afford, honestly. You know what you can afford. Go ahead.
Exactly. And you don't have to buy it all at once. Right? Investing is about making small investments, right? Putting in something consistently. Right. So it's not for the IRAs, for example, your retirement account. You're investing a small amount every month or every paycheck into that account. You can do the same thing at home. You can buy a few ounces of silver or a few ounces of copper or a few gold bags, and you can tell yourself, okay, how about I invest X amount every paycheck?
I like that idea. I like that.
You can say, okay, I can afford to invest $50 a paycheck and not miss that money. Right. This is the reason why we need to budget, right? We need to write a list of how we're spending our money, because when you know where you spend your money, you know where you can cut your expenses. Right. The individual problem in America is very much the same or similar to the government's problem. Right. We are overspenders and overconsumers. And so we have to look at what we're spending our money on and look at how we can cut our expenses. And then ask yourself, where can I invest? And what is safe and sound to invest in? And again, gold and silver has always had a store of value.
Have you ever heard of the envelope method in terms of budgeting? You have?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to say so? Okay, go ahead.
Go
So the envelope method is a method whereby, and our grandparents used to do that. You set aside cash for each thing that you will spend it on for that month. So you might set aside cash for your mortgage and put it in this envelope. I know a lot of people don't use cash now, but then you set aside cash for the electric bill, and it's cash for the car bill, and cash for entertainment. You set it, and so you have a whole bunch of different envelopes, for your expenditures. And you don't dip into those envelopes for anything else other than what it's earmarked for. But you also have something for investments and entertainment and what do you call it? Emergency fund. I know we don't have cash now, but maybe there's a way where we can budget and utilize a system similar to that. Do you have an idea how we can recreate that in the system where we only use like electronic money?
We still have cash.
Okay.
We may not use it as much or in the same ways that we did, but cash still exists. The dollar still exists, right? So then take out the money from your bank account.
That part.
It's just that simple. Like, we don't need to make things more complex than they are.
Okay.
Our grandparents and great grandparents had simplified methods.
They did.
Now we are extremely complex, and it's all for naught because we don't have what our grandparents and great grandparents had. They had sound investments. They invested in property, right? They had a rainy day fund. They had money stored for emergencies.
They did.
We don't have that today. We need to get back to the basics. All right. The financial system that we live in today is so complex that nobody understands it. And when nobody understands it, it's good for the economy. It's good for the markets because you're going to put money into things that you don't understand, and they can use that money to prop up whatever system that they want supported. But when you simplify your own personal investments, you say, okay, what has value to me? Let's start with that.
Okay.
What has value to me? And then what has value on the market, right? What has value? What can I, if I need to trade this in for cash, will I be able to get anything out of it? Right now in America, we're consumers. We buy depreciating assets.
Yeah.
Clothes, cars, TVs, cell phones. People found the money to be able to afford the newest iPhone every year.
It's amazing to me. Upgrading is what they call it, right?
Right. But however you figured to be able to afford that is the same way that you can be able to afford investments, sound investments in these precious metals that we're discussing. It's just the mentality, right? When you work on your mentality, then you find out the ways that things are possible, right? Things are impossible until you find out how to make it possible. And we just have to figure out how to make it possible for us to take whatever money, whatever income that we have and invest it. Now, if you don't have enough money to invest with the one income, if you have one income, get a second job, get a part-time job. Well, this is just practical.
Yes, sir.
If you don't have the money, find the money. If you work 40 hours, find a way to work 45, 50 hours in the week, and you don't have to do it forever. Give yourself a time frame, right? Say, okay, I'm going to work for the next few months or the next year so that I will be able to have extra money that I can invest, so that I can have extra money that I can save, right? And then once you're invested, then you don't have to work as hard.
Yeah, we were talking about affordable ways to buy gold, and we mentioned gold backs. You all can go to appmex.com, sdbullion.com, jmbullion.com, goldenstatement.com, or just do online gold and silver dealers. Or you can go to your local coin shop. I mean, I believe in shopping locally because that way you're helping local merchants, you're establishing relationships, you're helping each other out. And it's just a wonderful way to build a network. Go there, buy you some gold backs. They have gold backs in your local coin shops typically. Buy you some fractional gold. You don't have to buy a whole ounce. You can buy a quarter of an ounce, a half an ounce. You can buy grams. You can buy silver. Silver rounds right now we just saw is like $90, $91 per ounce. You can buy half an ounce, a quarter of an ounce, grams of silver. You can even buy what's called constitutional silver. Mr. Lattimore, you've heard of constitutional silver, yes?
Yes.
Constitutional silver is silver that was minted before we got off the gold standard. The year I think was like 1965. Is that correct, Mr. Lattimore? Somewhere around there, 64, 65?
Somewhere around there. I don't know the exact date.
So constitutional silver is 90% silver. It is real silver, 90% silver. It typically costs less than your silver bullion, but it's still 90%. You can go to your local shop and ask, may I have constitutional silver? And they also call it junk silver. And why they call it junk silver, I don't know. I think that's disrespectful to silver. But you can ask your local coin shop for junk silver. You can go to the pawn shop, the antique shop, estate sales, and buy silver jewelry, silverware or sterling silver has 92% silver. Remember, our grandparents used to eat off real silverware. They had real silver utensils. 92% silver at a pawn shop, an antique shop, an estate sale. There are affordable ways, is what I'm trying to seed into your consciousness, family, to buy precious metals. Anything you want to say to that, Mr. Lattimore?
Yeah, I agree. It's a matter of you figuring out how to do it. You have to find the ways to invest because it's there. It's possible for every person to be able to invest in these metals and into these different assets. But it's the mentality. If you tell yourself that you can't do something, then you won't be able to do it. The moment that you tell yourself that you can, you find ways, and doors open and things become available. And I will reemphasize what you said about going to local coin shops.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Being able to have that person to person connection is important. Being able
Mm-hmm.
to have the communication, right? You have questions you can actually ask your coin dealers. It's a bit different than if you're calling a company, right, and making orders online. You're not able to
Yeah.
ask all of the questions. You're not able to be as thorough as you can when you working person to person.
Mm-hmm. You and I have had that experience a few times where we went to our local coin dealer and had 30-minute conversations, hour-long conversations about what's going on in the markets.
Mhm. And they can actually inform you on what's going on in the markets because they are actually very much active in the markets.
Mm, mm. Before we go any further, family, I just want to say that our show is partially sponsored by Holistic. This is a local shop here. I love their products. You all have asked me, what are you doing to keep your energy high? I gave some to Dexter. Dexter has some as well. He took some this morning. I gave some to all of my children, my grandchildren. Holistic is a wonderful local company, but they ship all over. So what I'm taking right now is my black seed oil with wild oregano. This is phenomenal for parasite cleansing. Now, some people have said things like diseases like cancer and other diseases could stem from the parasites that's living in the foods that enter our body. So when you take a mixture of black seed oil and or oregano, it deals with those parasites. I showed you all on yesterday on my live or the day before where a woman had testified that she actually saw the worms, Dexter, in the stools in her bowels when she eliminated in the toilet. She actually saw. That's crazy. From taking the product. One of our Soul Tribe members here just said that they received their product. I also have just pure black seed right here, oil. And this is good for your hair, nails, and skin. When I went to my nail tech on yesterday, I said, don't cover my nails with polish. I don't want red or blue this time. I just want, give me a clear polish because I want everybody to see my nails are growing and they're very strong. They used to bend and break and twist and chip, but my nails are growing and they're very, very hard. I showed you all this the other day. I'm ecstatic about that because for the longest they were chipping. So she asked me, what are you doing differently? And I told her, only thing I'm doing is taking black seed oil. And she said, well, black seed oil helps to maintain the melanin in your hair. This is a Vietnamese woman. And it also helps with your hair, skin, and nails, helps them become, the bonds in your hair become stronger, help your skin to become more clear, and it helps your nails to not break. So if you're interested in these products, black seed oil infused with oregano or just black seed oil, also sea moss, which some of our Soul Tribe families say, ew, sea moss is yucky, but sea moss is good. We have sea moss there. We have honey, raw, I think it's called Manuska honey, raw honey infused with black seed oil. And we also have some raw honey infused with cacao. That's 100% pure chocolate. I bought that for my grandson. I will put that in the description section for you and in the chat. It is simply Holistic, like honey, HONLISTIC.shop. So they are a partial sponsor of the show along with Miles Franklin Precious Metals. So I wanted to give them a shout out and tell you all thank you so much for supporting Holistic. And I'll put that in the chat for you because some of you can't see when I put it on the screen because the writing is so low. All right. And if you're enjoying Brother Dexter, Mr. Dexter Lattimore, it's Manuka, honey. Thank you. Thank you. Then please continue to watch the show. Send him a shout out. He's working on a book. If you desire to support his work, he had told me the other day that he was so grateful that some of you were still like expressing to him that you enjoy the information that he shares. Some of you were sending him Cash App gifts and he wasn't even expecting it. So I want to give him this opportunity to express his gratitude, but you can send him a donation to $ Dex Lattimore before we continue with the show.
Absolutely. I've appreciated the support from you and from your audience. It's been great to have the support. And like you said, I didn't expect it. I just wanted to come here to give the information that I have because a lot of things are going on in the markets behind the scenes, and it can become a bit complex to understand these things. And I just wanted to be able to break down some of these things. But it's always an honor to be able to receive support from you and your audience. So I definitely appreciate all of you for that.
It's a great pleasure. The Soul Tribe does, we do what we can to help each other. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No.
So the Adept Moore said it's called Manuka honey. I always call it Manuska honey. I apologize for that. Thank you, Adept Moore. If you all missed the show that we did yesterday, please go to my Dr. Kia Pruitt channel on YouTube because the Adept Moore, Coach Bay, came on the show and he talked about the relationship between fitness and finance. It was a great show. He is a scholar. Like you could tell he's been to college because he had slideshows. He had all type of references to support his claims. He read from abstracts and research papers, scholastic research papers. He wanted you all to know he knew his information. I really appreciate the show that he did on yesterday. Thank you, Adept Moore. We appreciate you. And if you missed that show, family, let me show you right here. You can go to the Dr. Kia Pruitt channel. There are many copies of my channel, okay? People that's just mimicking me, but my name is at Dr. Kia Pruitt Official, but it is the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. You see the video section shorts. We go to the live section and you'll see we did a show here, the relationship between fitness and finance. I hope you all can see that. Yeah, it's me with my flexing my arm in my red outfit because I've been working out, trying to get ready for this new season. All right, Mr. Lattimore, we've talked about silver and gold, stocks and bonds, real estate, but we haven't talked about rare earth minerals. What should we know about rare earth minerals? Like who's producing them, who has rare earth minerals, whatever you want to talk about as it relates to rare earth minerals.
Well, China is the main producer of rare earth minerals in the world.
Okay.
So most countries have rare earth minerals, right? America, for example, we have plenty of rare earth minerals, but we don't have the factories to produce the rare earth minerals. So China took on that production cost about 30 years ago, right? Where they were the ones who actually invested in the factories to produce these minerals. Almost no other country has the capability to produce these minerals, to manufacture them. So all the countries of the world have been using China to manufacture these products and then to distribute them respectively to the countries. America obviously is in a conundrum because we cannot produce these rare earths. And last year, China, for example, actually restricted the amount of rare earths being sold to America. So now America has been talking about, since Trump has been in office, the fact that we need to be able to produce, right? We don't produce most of the goods that we consume.
Okay.
So we're extremely high consumers. We're the #1 consumers of the world. But the rest of the world subsidizes our consumption. The rest of the world produces and overproduces in order for us to be able to consume the products that we have. Now, all of these countries have been turning away from the US and been looking at being more concerned about themselves as a nation. America is at the point where we have to become producers because the rest of the world is no longer interested in subsidizing our consumption.
Okay. I'm going to let you go on. You talked about us being consumers. What are your thoughts about us being consumers versus producers? I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go off the screen for a minute, take some of my oregano and black seed. But what are your thoughts about us being producers and consumers, and what do we need to do to rectify that?
Well, again, we are 100% consumers, and we produce almost nothing that we consume. So clearly, you can see a problem with that, right? We don't have a productive. We have a financial market or a financial economy. We don't have a production economy. So the whole system that we have is based on the money printing that we have. Now we're in a point where the money printing does not help us as a society. And we cannot consume the things that we don't produce. When you look at all of your products in your house, for example, you can start with your cell phone, you can look at your television, you can look at the food in your refrigerators. The vast majority of these products come from outside the country. So that creates a huge dependency on every other country involved for us to be able to consume whatever it is that we consume. Well, we are in a time period where things have changed drastically. Countries are no longer supporting our consumption in the manner that they were. So we as a country, we're having to bring back, this is the reason why Donald Trump talks about bringing back factories, right? It's going to create jobs. Yes, that's wonderful. But we have to increase our productivity because we as a country are lazy and spoiled, right? We're going to see a lot of things change, right? People are going to have a new diet based on the fact that if you look at the fact that we have a McDonald's on every corner, for example, we have fast food restaurants everywhere, but we don't see cows and pigs in an abundance, then we have to ask the question, where on earth are we getting the meat?
Can I add something to that?
Sure.
Why don't we see any new cemeteries?
That's a good question.
That's scary. No cows, no hogs, no lamb, no goats, like what I used to see when I was growing up, and no new cemeteries being built, but yet people are passing away every single day. That's scary to me. What are they doing with these bodies?
That is a question that I'll leave for your audience to ponder on, because that's an important question that we have to ask ourselves. What are we actually eating? We don't know. And where's the food coming from? That we also don't know. But that's just the meat, right? When you look at, again, the fruit doesn't come from here, right? So what are we actually growing? What are we actually producing? Right? The U.S. created a global monoculture system where every country produces one or two things. Right? We produce soybeans and corn.
Okay.
That's the reason why we have corn syrup in all our products, because that's what we produce. But now we overproduce in these products so that we can export them to other countries. But outside of those products, we don't have things that we produce in abundance. So then we cannot satisfy the need for our own population.
Now, I don't know if you just went into detail. I was taking my sea moss. Somebody said sea moss is nasty. I just opened it. I just cracked it open. You can see this sea moss has mango in it, and it is actually delicious. It's a consistency of baby food, and I just took it. It's good. I'm sorry. It's actually delicious. I just wanted to say that, but
we have to change our palates. Just going to that point, we have to change our palate. What we consider good is usually not good for us. It's usually high sugar, high corn syrup, right? Fructose corn syrup, and they make in America. They make the products to be good to our palate, to taste good. But they are also simultaneously destroying our bodies from the inside.
Ooh.
So we have to consider everything that tastes good is not good for us. And things that don't necessarily taste good are often the best for us when we talk about what's good for our health. Now,
and by the way, I got this from Holistic, the company that sponsors our show. Go ahead, Mr. Lattimore.
I was just going to say, we talk about wealth on this channel.
A lot.
What's the most important form of wealth? It would be your health, right? Because if you are able to accumulate all of this wealth that we're discussing on your show, and you're unhealthy, one heart attack can be the end of you.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not invested in your health, then you can throw away all of the other discussions because it's irrelevant. To become a millionaire and then die the next day means that your wealth was irrelevant.
Now you mentioned, thank you for that. You mentioned monoculture. I don't know if you actually explained that. What does that actually mean?
It means that every country produces one or two goods based on their strategic advantage, right?
Okay.
So if Italy can produce wine at a high level, but they don't produce corn, right? If their country is not able to produce corn in abundance, then they're not going to produce corn. They're only going to produce wine. And America, on the other hand, will produce the corn, and these countries will trade their goods for one for the other. The Banana Republic, right? All of these Latin American countries that produce bananas as their main exporting product, they generally do not produce other products aside from that one product. Ukraine produces wheat. So most of the world gets their wheat from Ukraine. Most of the world gets their soybeans from America. Most of the world gets their bananas from the Banana Republic, right? But no country is producing all of these goods for their own consumption. They produce one or two that they have the most strategic advantage in, and then they export that and they import all of the other goods.
I'm wondering if President Trump is trying to change that, because under his first administration, he created the USMCA, United States, Mexico, and Canada, which was a trade agreement between these three nations. Do you foresee him trying to do what he can to eradicate that monoculture culture or system?
Yes, I believe that it's really inevitable. Okay. Because again, if we have trade wars, which we've been having over the last year, then we become very vulnerable. Any country that decides that they don't want to export their products to America, that means that we can easily have a crisis, like not just the food, but when you talk about semiconductors, for example, we had a semiconductor crisis a few years ago, because Taiwan is the only country that was producing semiconductors, or the main country, the number one country producing. And when they had whatever occurred in their system that occurred a few years ago, it put a shock into the American system. This is the reason why the used car prices exploded over the a few years ago, because when you're dependent on one country for anything, if they have any problems or if they cut you off for any reason, then you are extremely vulnerable.
I
In
love the way
America,
you did that. That's a perfect segue into the automobile collapse. Because we've been talking about the everything bubble. Okay, monoculture. So you had one particular country that were producing the semiconductors, and that led to, you were saying, the automobiles, the what is it, the old automobiles, what do you call it?
used
Used
cars.
cars. The prices exploded, and that was like 2023.
Yes.
My
Around that
car that I
time.
bought for $17,000 is now only worth $9,000 today.
Exactly.
Go
Because it
ahead.
was worth, because 5 years ago it was worth $9,000. But when we had the shortage, the semiconductor shortage, it went from 9,000 up to 17,000.
I
Because
see.
again, there's scarcity. Prices is all about scarcity of goods,
Okay.
right? Supply and demand and
Mm,
scarcity.
mm,
There's not an infinite amount of resources. There's a finite amount of any resource that we talk about.
mm.
So then when people need that resource, the demand is high and the supply is limited, then the prices of those goods are going to go up,
Mm.
right? So when they said we have a semiconductor problem, that meant that we could not produce cars at the level that we wanted to be able to, or at the level of demand. So
Okay.
then that means that the prices of all of the cars that are already on the market goes up, because
Mm.
there's still a high demand for cars. And then when you add on the fact of immigration, for example, led to an even higher demand in these products, then the price just goes up astronomically. But now, fast forward to today, car companies are having a real problem selling cars. There are no buyers.
Yes.
And that's in nearly every market right now. There are no buyers. There are
Mm.
sellers. We talk about the housing market. There are sellers. People, the reason why the prices are going down, the prices are going down in the housing market is because when you put your house on the market last year at $300,000, no one bought it. So then you had to change the price, $280,000. No one bought. 250, no one's buying. 200. People are taking their houses off the market because there are no buyers. Because
Mm.
again, we are having a liquidity crisis. People don't have cash. And the problem with our financial institution is that any financial crises that we have, we've been able to just print the money. Well, we're not able to just print the money and solve the problems the way we did. And if
Mm.
they print too much money, then it actually, that in itself causes its own set of problems.
Mhm.
So the feds are having to be very careful about the different tools that they have used in the past to get us out of recessions and financial crises. These tools are not working today.
Mm. When I'm noticing that while these things are happening, like we have a bubble, and I put it in the chat for you all to see that we have housing. Mr. Lattimore spoke of real estate, bonds, stocks, shadow banking, rare earth minerals, metals, precious metals, gold and silver, automobile. All these things are collapsing. We had a bubble. Everything's being burst right now. It's collapsing. What I'm noticing though, at the same time this is happening, I see President Trump doing certain things. I want to know if you can speak on this, Mr. Lattimore. I saw President Trump withdraw us from 66 international organizations. I saw him create the Board of Peace, and he said that will replace the United Nations, and 22 countries have joined. I see him taking critical steps, it looks like, to put us in a better place. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, a few things. One, we cannot afford all of these institutions, right? Because most of these global institutions that we're a part of, we finance the majority of them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Then also, we're entering a new era where the ways of the old world do not work anymore. And so Trump is pulling all of the things that you just mentioned. He's recreating new systems and new organizations because the old organizations have failed to produce the results that they were promised. So the United Nations, for example, the United Nations has not stopped any wars, right? So it's great on paper, but in practice, it doesn't actually hold its weight. So then, if we're financing the United Nations and it doesn't actually stop any wars or prevent wars, then what's our point in financing it? And what's the money being used for?
It's interesting because, right, what is our money being used for? Two things I want to say. It's interesting because when the Department of Government Efficiency was created under Trump and Elon Musk, they found out that United States aid wasn't really funding these emerging markets or these international, but third world countries. That they were actually pushing woke agendas to these third world countries, like gender stuff and sexual behaviors and stuff like that. The money, only what 1% of the money was being earmarked for those nations. The 99% of the money was filling the pockets of the elites.
Exactly. And go ahead.
Oh, and the second thing I wanted to bring up, I want you to remember that. The second thing is, now that Trump is removing us from 66 organizations, funny that they use the number 6, but they're saying he's abandoning the world. That's what mainstream media is saying. He's abandoning the world. He's making the United States vulnerable. But they found out that participating in these world organizations wasn't helping us, wasn't helping these nations, and the elites were stealing the money.
Well, it was helping our agenda for the time. But again, you said they were funding a bunch of woke programs. That's what America wanted, to be able to export our ideology. Right? You talk about America funding the United Nations was about us exporting democracy, the concept, the theory of democracy. Any country that takes our money has to do what we say. And so it's been beneficial to America up until now. But this is where we're experiencing the collapse of the empire. All right. So America cannot finance all of these things, and it no longer benefits America the way it did. Because what benefited America and for what reasons in the past is not the same as where we are today.
And you see this is published by the White House. President Trump ratifies the Board of Peace in a historic ceremony, opening path to hope and dignity. They're saying for Gazans, but it's interesting because they're now saying that, he created a Board of Peace in order to rectify what was going on in Gaza. But we knew about Project Sandman, which was an agreement between 209 nations to stop trading with the United States dollar and collapse the Federal Reserve Central Banking System. And they all agreed to world peace. We found out about that in 2017. But they're using whatever's happened in Gaza as the reason for creating the Board of Peace. Why do they do things like that? Like make up excuses for why they're doing things?
To be able to rationalize to the general public what's going on, and for the people to be able to understand and consume the information. Right? You don't want to create too big of a scare to the public. They don't. Right? Those in power. They want things to be able to run smoothly, even if there's a transition in, whether it's a transition in power or transition in finances, the financial systems. they want for there to be a smooth transition and not too many hiccups. So
Okay.
they'll create the narrative, whatever narrative works for them at the time. Like you mentioned, for example, the situation in Gaza. That's the reason why they're talking about this peace organization that he's created.
Mm-hmm.
The situation with ICE, they're using that as the reason that we're having another government shutdown.
That's weird. Yes, they
But
are.
the citizens can accept it,
Oh, I
right?
see.
If you say, well, we're having another government shutdown because we had the same problems as the last time we had to shut down, people are like, well, why did we open? Why is it shut? What's going on? And then the protests will not be, the protests will be leaderless. They want to be able to put the leaders to the protest and be able to guide everything into how they want it to go. Right, this ice storm that we just had,
Yeah.
it froze the nation, but it's getting everybody prepared for the potential government shutdown because the financial system is frozen. Right, we're having a whole lot of problems, but you can't just come out and say to, for example, you look at the stock market. If
Okay.
Fox News went on air and said, you know what, the stock market is having a problem. What does that do? That creates a run on the stocks. People will immediately pull their money out, even if there wasn't a recession that was going to come. They will be the creator and the cause of the recession because people will panic.
I
So they
see.
don't want people to panic. So they give these narratives. And that's why at the last show I mentioned that we are living in the Truman Show.
Yes.
It's only at the end of the movie that Truman actually realized that everything was a show and it was all a stage. It's only after the collapse that the general public will understand that the system has in fact collapsed. And all the way up until that point, they will consider everybody that speaks on the collapse as a conspiracy theorist. Right? That's the mainstream's way of decrediting any critical thinkers. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Oh, you're full of it. You know, I don't know where you must have been listening to Peter Schiff. Right? He's doom and gloom. You must be one of those guys. But until it crashes, the system will never say that it's on its way to crashing.
Right. I'm gonna keep going. I want you to talk about more Peter Schiff. You've been listening to Peter Schiff for a while. I believe he's an economist, but talk about some of his ideologies and why you decided to listen to Peter Schiff, who sounds like an Austrian economist versus a Keynesian economist. But what principles does Peter Schiff have that you espouse?
I listened to Peter Schiff because he talked about the global financial crisis that occurred in 2008. He foresaw it. And when I was watching at the time in 2006, 2007, he was talking that there's a bubble in the housing market. He was being told that he was incorrect. He even got kicked off of a lot of shows because he was the doom and gloom guy. But he was just giving his assessment of the markets. Now, again, mainstream wants for everybody to consistently invest in the markets. So they're going to always say, oh, things are good, right? It's very rare an occasion that you will hear any mainstream person talk about there being problems in the financial or the stock market until it occurs. And then they talk about what happened, but they generally don't tell you that there's a bear market on its way. Peter Schiff was one of the lone wolves at the time that predicted the housing market collapse and predicted the financial global financial crisis of 2008. And he also was encouraging people to invest in gold at that time in 2008. And it's only been up until last year where other financial advisors have actually been promoting gold and silver, and he's been doing this for decades.
Mm, mm. You have shared so much, and if I could recap, I would say we talked about the housing market, we talked about real estate, rare earth minerals, gold and silver, the automobile industry. You talked about the banking. What was that new phenomenon? I never heard shadow banking.
Mhm.
All of these things are seemingly attached to the United States dollar.
Yes.
And all of this is attached to the United States Incorporated, that empire that was a huge empire. But
Yes.
Babylon is falling.
Mhm.
Babylon is falling. Babylon, Babylon is falling. We sang it in church. Babylon is falling. On one hand, they're saying it's doom and gloom, but for us, the soul tribe, the human race, this is a time to rejoice if we avail ourselves of the opportunities and prepare.
Yes.
What are your final thoughts as we wrap up the show today that you want to leave the soul tribe? Well, you got time that you want to leave the soul tribe with, Mr.
Sure.
Lattimore,
Final
economist.
thoughts are to research
Okay.
what it is that you want and what you want to invest in. Look at this year. We're at the beginning of the year. All right. People need to write a plan for the year, right? Write up their budgets. People need to look at where they're spending their money and to find new ways to be able to invest. If you are not invested now, this is the time to invest. It's an excellent opportunity for people to invest because you have a lot of bubbles, and a lot of these bubbles will burst, right? The bubbles being inflated, right? Consistently getting bigger and bigger, but without having more productivity. So
Mm,
when we see the deflation, then this is the best time to buy. All right. When you talk about the 1929 stock market crash, prices went straight to the bottom. Now, a lot of people lost their investments, but then there were new buyers at the bottom.
mm,
We are entering a time period where we're about to hit rock bottom for these companies. And now there are going to be companies that have practiced sound business. They will do well. They will continue to do well. But those that did not will see corrections. All right. So this is the best time in our lifetimes to invest. Also, like you mentioned, we're witnessing the collapse of the United States corporation, right? And so things are are changing. They are changing, not about to. They are changing, and they will continue to change. We're in a transitional period,
mm,
right? You talk about 50 years ago, the CEO to employee ratio of the earnings were about 30-1. Now they're
mm.
like 300-1. So
Wow.
the CEOs are millionaires, hundreds, of millions of dollars that they're receiving, and they're still paying minimum wage.
Mm,
So that is one of the things that I'm expecting will change, because all of the money that these CEOs have, they have more than they need, right? And a lot of it is invested in the stock market. Right? And it's
mm,
hard to pull out your money from the stock market. Right? Most people will not just pull their money straight out of the stock market because you immediately have to pay 30% in taxes. So people are afraid to pull their money out of the stock market, but the stock market is due for a correction, and people are expecting for a collapse in a lot of these stocks. So this is a perfect time to invest. Look at emerging markets, look at foreign currencies, look at hard assets, right? Look at land, because land always has value. Find appreciating assets, buy appreciating assets, and limit yourself on the purchases of depreciating assets.
Excellent, phenomenal. People have questions for you. I want to know if you have maybe about 5 to 10 minutes for questions.
Sure.
Okay. And before we do, family, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here, for your time and attention. We have our special guest, the economist of the Soul Tribe, Dex Lattimore, who has a degree in economics, Pan-African studies, and a specialty in international business. I want to take the time to say thank you to a couple people who have contributed to the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show by sending me a cash app. Sister Vanessa, thank you so much. God bless you. Have a smile on you for sending me a donation to $Kia, Mama Kia 13. Also, Sister Linda Smith, I appreciate you. She says, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Sister Mayoshi Davis sent a cash app gift. Also, Wiley sent the cash app gift. And then there's somebody who contacted one of my affiliate companies and said, I just want to bless you. So I'm so grateful. Let me see who that was. Sister, bear with me for a few minutes. I want to get this person, their name correctly, who sent me. They actually sent it to somebody to send to me. And I just think that's wonderful. And so he did. He sent it right away. Sister Gloria Barnes, God bless you for the gift that you sent me. I'm so appreciative. God bless all of you, Soul Tribe. You are wonderful to me and to our special guests. And also, as Mr. Lattimore said earlier, he appreciates any gifts that you have given to him. So somebody wants to know, who is this from our Facebook family? Sister Anita, welcome, says, where do we stand on the Black American treaties? Do you have any thoughts on the treaties? I know this isn't your area. Your area is economics.
Can you tell me about the Black American treaties that she's referring to?
I think she might be talking. I don't know for sure, Sister Anita. You might have to be a little more descriptive, but she might be talking about the treaties of the indigenous peoples here, like the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, different treaties we had on the lands. I would say that I heard some of those treaties were not honored, but in this new era into which we're going, the golden era where our republic is being restored, the treaties now have to be honored. So everybody that stays on the land will have to operate in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, those are the values of the dynasty that was here before we were overtaken by the colonizers. So love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, as long as you can operate within those, you will be able to stay on the land and those treaties will be honored. That's what I understand. You have any further thoughts, Mr. Lattimore?
My thoughts on that would be, unfortunately, the Black Americans will be the last to benefit from what's going on, but that doesn't mean that we won't benefit. We have so many problems in the country right now that we have to fix the many problems that we have before they're even going to be able to address the major issue that they have with the Black American community that has been subjugated to all of the oppression of the United States incorporation. So when you talk about like the immigration problem, when you talk about the financial problem, these are immediate concerns that the country is addressing right now. And now behind the scenes, they may be addressing the looming Black issue because, for example, a few years ago, there have been a lot of there's been a lot of comments, I'll say, around the world, a lot of acknowledgement that the Black Americans have been subjugated to a lot of mistreatment. And the fact is that there was somebody here before this country was colonized. We were here, and so this is our land, but now it's going to take time, if ever, for them to acknowledge the reality, because the American system, the American government, they profit from the oppression of peoples. And so it will take some time, I would say, but everything has to be addressed. And so we have, and then the important thing for the Black American community is to work together. We are so divided that our voices overall are not heard, right? There are people speaking louder than us, communities speaking louder than us on their demands, what they want and expect from the government. And so until we're able to become more united and bring our issues to the government, then we can expect that they're not going to have us first on the list.
I will add to that and say that Empress Verdiasi Gaston L. Turner Bay took the United States Incorporated to courts, and she, said that there were colonizers that stole the land. Louisiana Purchase was a Louisiana theft. She is the Empress of the Moors, or the Washita people, or Washita people. The Washingtons come from Washita people. And she actually won her claim in the amount of $85 quadrillion, because she said, you didn't buy the land from us, you stole the land. She had the allodial title. Now, she has since passed on. She won her claim. We don't know how that's going to be addressed, but at least we did have someone speaking out for the autochthonous indigenous people that are erroneously classified and called Black Americans. So I do believe, and I feel in my soul that those things are going to be rectified, as well as everybody all over the globe are going to be paid out, or just have access to their trusts. You're going to we all have a trust that was created in our name. The thing is, Mr. Lattimore, that I want to stress to the people is, if you avail yourself of opportunities that we speak about, whether they give us what they call it, reparations or not, which they need to, they have to, they must, because we are the 1828 Webster's definition of the Americans, the copper-colored races found here by Christopher Columbus. But say they don't, there are things we can do ourselves, in my humble opinion, to thrive.
Yeah.
The things you've been talking about. Don't wait on the government. You always say that. Don't wait on the military, Nassau White Knights. It's wonderful what they're doing behind the scenes with Nassau. Look up my videos on the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, Nassau. But if we avail ourselves of these opportunities, right, to get land, to form community, get our families back in order, buy gold, silver, foreign currencies, we talk about that, and accumulate wealth for your posterity, you're going to be okay.
And
what do you say?
I would add to that, when we look in history in the early 1900s, from 1900 to 1930, the Black Americans were doing the best in the country.
Didn't know that.
You had Black Wall Street. You had Rosewood. You had a lot of Black community. You had Tuskegee, right? So we were doing better than our counterparts and the Caucasian Americans. So it's possible for us to be the best in what is going on in this country. But what happened is we became divided, right? You look at, we were coerced into inclusion. Integration. Integration collapsed our businesses and our own institutions that we had in the Black community. We had our own schools, our own restaurants, our own hospitals. We had a lot of things. We were self-sustained, but we decided to give that up in order to integrate into their system, which in fact, ironically, their system was collapsing at the time. They needed us to come into their system to boost their system, because again, we were doing better than they were. We had communities and whole cities that were doing much better. So now it's possible.
And of course we would, because it's our land. We've always been thriving. We always had empires. We always had gold and silver. We built up all these amazing institutions that are now museums and prisons and schools and church houses and cathedrals. That's our work. We are the autochthonous people that's sprung from the soil. So yes, we were thriving.
And even today, we're the best in everything that we put our minds to. We're the best athletes, the best musicians. We're the best at fun things. But that's the only thing that we're investing in is what's fun, not what's necessary per se. So if we change our strategy as a community of what we're investing in, and we put more energy into things that are practical for our community, then we can take over in no time. We can be a lot further along if we as a community unite. But look at our community. What's going on in our community right now? Listen to the music. The music is terrible. The music is telling our children what to do. So now the males are selling drugs. The females are degrading themselves. And we are focused on those things as a community overall. But who's investing in creating businesses? Who is being serious about creating a school, right? Or a hospital? The things that we need as a community, we don't have. And we don't have an actualized community anymore. When you own your house and everybody on the block owns their house, you have a community. When everybody is renters, there's no community. You don't know your neighbors. And even if you do know your neighbors, you will move out in 2 to 5 years and they will move out. So it's constant flow of the housing, but there's no stability. And you have to have stability in order to establish a community. So we need to get back to the basics as our community. We need to rear in our children, right? We need to hold ourselves accountable and hold the generations under us accountable and take things more seriously, because when it's fun, we're there. If it's not fun, you won't find too many of us in that setting. So we need to change our mentality and get more serious about things.
Thank you. I agree. And the family has been interrupted. So we need to restore our families.
Absolutely.
Instead of focusing on, having fun. Thank you for being 9 Ether, for being a new member of the Soul Tribe family. If you're interested in being a member of our private group where we talk about investments in detail, some of the things that Mr. Lattimore has shared, then you can hit the join button on any of my videos. But I'll also put a link here for you in the chat. But hit the join button and follow the prompts and you will be in. Tomorrow we're going to talk about an old investment that many people aren't talking about, that can make you wealthy today, because that investment, although it was mentioned in the 1950s, is still there, still available for us to invest in. So hit the join button and become a member of our private group. Thank you for being a private member again, 9 Ether. Somebody had a question, Sister Karen. Will United States savings bonds and retirement accounts be worth anything after the crash? We might have talked about it a little bit. Go ahead.
That's a good question. We can only speculate. But what I would say is that if I am to take a guess, they will be worth something, but they won't be worth whatever the current numbers are right now. Right. So your retirement accounts, especially if you don't know what your retirement accounts are attached to, what stocks, what bonds they're attached to, then there will be a lot of people that lose all of their savings because they don't know where they're tied to, and they don't know the value of those companies. And if those companies value goes to zero, their stocks go to zero, then you will lose all of your investment if you're only invested in that.
Thank you. We're going over just a little bit over 2 hours, but Mr. Lattimore will probably break this video up for us and make it in like little segments so that you can see the video over time throughout the weekend while we're possibly in the house during the government shutdown. Somebody wants to know if you can mention a little bit about farmland. Hello, sister. Is that Sister Emariel? Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, farmland is important. We need farmers. Right? We have to eat something. And there's land is always for sale. Right? You can always buy land in this country, and so yeah, we need to have farmers. We need people investing in farmland and investing in the farming industry, because that is a skill, a trade that will not go anywhere for as long as people are still on this planet.
Absolutely. I went to the farmer's market the other day and was talking to a sister who she has a farm, and she was saying that the United States has made a lot of enemies in the world. And then we say, invite me to your table to eat. I was like, oh my God. She said, it makes no sense to make enemies and then ask them to produce your food.
It's insane. It's insane. And then that's when you have situations where they say China, the ramen noodles that we get from China is plastic. A lot of the foods are plastic that we're eating. Well, if you rely, again, as you said, if you rely on your enemies or your adversaries to produce the food, you might find that you're eating poison. And so
Rice too. Rice too.
yeah,
They say rice.
yeah.
Rice is plastic. Some of the rice we've had in our country.
Yeah. So yes, reiterating the fact we need farming in our countries, in our country, in our communities. We need local farmers, right? Because otherwise we don't know what we're eating. And anybody can tell you anything, but if you don't know where your food is being grown, that's a problem. And we in general don't know where our food comes from. They might put a sticker on your food at Kroger or at Publix and say that it comes from Nicaragua or from Mexico or whatever. But
Peru. Yeah.
right, most of these countries, none of our people have been there. So we don't know what's going on in those countries. We don't know how it's getting sent here. There's a lot of unknowns, and it's better to know where your food comes from so that you can be a bit more reassured that it is actually food and that it is in fact healthy for you.
Speaking of food, go ahead.
You look at even here in America, the foods that we produce in America, like the apples, they spray the apples to give a polished look, right?
Yeah.
The purchasing in America is more about advertisement than it is about health. So they want to give a good image for the product, but they don't mind giving you poison food that has a good image that is also bad for your health. So we absolutely need, it's essential for us to get local farmers who are producing the food for the local communities.
Speaking of local farmers, I had a special guest on my show a couple times in a private. She started off in my private group, and now he has come out to speak to everybody, the whole Soul Tribe. Chef Yosef. He talks about the importance of farms and also farmers markets. He opened my eyes, and he will even show you the farmer markets in your area. If you are interested in learning more about heirloom seeds, how to eat fresh, which farmers markets are in your area, how to create a menu that's good for your palate, good for your bloodline, or just anything you might have nutritional or dietary needs, then I would encourage you to join this group. We're a part of a group called, he has a school link, is school.com/plant powered Pantry Society, but he'll be on our show on tomorrow, Saturday. I think it's about 1:00. Let me show you what that video looks like. He's going to talk about seeds, farming, farmland, farmers markets. Let me see if I can show you that. Because on the Dr. Kia Pruitt show, it is our desire to make sure everybody is highly self-actualized. That's something that our guest talked about yesterday, Coach Bay, when he was talking about the relationship between fitness and finance. We want you to be highly self-actualized. That means maximize your potential spiritually, emotionally, financially, and physically. So because of that, we're going to have a special guest, Chef Yosef, to talk about eating healthy on tomorrow. Again, I think I said, yes, it's at 1:00. This is what that looks like. It's called Health is Wealth. And he's going to talk about a Health is Wealth challenge. Some things, the challenge for the year of us eating healthy. He's going to teach us how to eat healthy. He's going to show us what foods are good for us. So I would encourage you all to join that show tomorrow. Mr. Lattimore, can you, before we end, talk about family living? Because now I'm starting to research family compounds. Somebody mentioned land, how people, multi-generational land and real estate. Why is that something we might consider as we move into this era of self-sustainability? Family living, family compounds, multi-generational living.
Yeah. Well, because you can pool your wealth, you can pool your finances together as a family, and that's a good strategy to be able to move faster than you would as an individual. America has been an individualistic society, and as we have gotten to the present state that we're in, we've come to realize that being individualistic is actually unsustainable and comes at a very high cost. So then if it's very difficult, if it is difficult, and it is in fact difficult to be individualistic, then we need to look into other strategies. And we look at other communities who are in this country, they pull their wealth and their finances together, and they're able to accumulate wealth at a faster pace than we are, the Americans, because we're individualistic. And so compound living, family living, all of these things are important strategies that we can use to advance ourselves and our families and create generational wealth.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for that. You talked about us being individualistic. You talked about us, liking to have a lot of fun. We've been consumers. Now we're going to have to change our mindset because the government's not going to save us. The government's shutting down. It may never reopen. Right.
And even if it does, it's going to the possibility is that we reopen the government at half the capacity that it's at. All right.
Okay.
Half of the finances that it's at. So a lot of the spending that we're used to that the government does, the Medicare, the welfare, Social Security, we cannot afford those things. Those are our expenses that we cannot afford. And we have
Section 8, housing,
all
funding
that.
that was going to shelters, domestic violence shelters. People are going online complaining, but they don't understand and overstand. It was never the government's job to take care of the people. That's your family's job. That's the tribe's job. That's the community's job. And I yield.
And it shows the amount of insanity that we thought that was normal. We became accustomed to it. It became our reality. But when you look at every other country in the world, most countries do not do those things. So when you're an empire, you can afford entitlement programs.
Okay.
But when you have to have a balanced budget, which is where we are today, you have to cut expenses. And all of the frivolous spending that we were doing, we can just write checks to everybody. You need some extra money, we got you. That's the government. You need something, we got you. We're going to take care of our old. We're going to take care of our women. We're going to take care of everything. That's nice in the perfect setting. But it's not possible when you're $38 trillion in debt as a government.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to do our job. We're going to have to educate our own children. Imagine that. Imagine us educating our own children.
I don't
Imagine
think people
us.
can.
Go ahead.
I don't think people can imagine it because they've been so comfortable sending their children to school, right? You send your kids to school, they spend 7-8 hours at the school, plus commute. So your children really only spend 3-4 hours of waking time with the parents. Generally, the parents put them on the TV or in front of a screen and let the screen raise the children. And the majority of the time that the children are at home, they're asleep. Things are about to change fast and dramatically.
Imagine having to feed yourself. Imagine having to grow your own food instead of depending on your enemy that despises you, whether it comes from another country or the food is shipped from another country. That's where we're going to. We're going to have to produce our own food. This is why we said earlier we need to make friends with or build relationships with local merchants, like not just your local coin dealer, but your local farmer. Imagine having to cure yourself with herbs. Now we have become so insane with the programming that mainstream media won't even allow you to use the word cure. You can't say this herb will cure you. You can say it will address certain ailments. That's wild.
Well, because it crashes their medical system.
I see.
Right? How much money do you need for those cures to pay versus how much will that surgery cost? That's not going to cure you. Right. So everything is tied into each other, and the system is very fragile.
Very fragile.
One small thing can collapse everything.
Absolutely. I'm just bringing up the Meta Center Chicago for those of you that desire to buy certain things like herbs, seeds, heirloom seeds, real seeds. Those of you might be interested in certain type of healing technologies. The Meta Center Chicago, with whom we had an affiliation, but it's been about a year since I've had Dr. Tony Vortex on the show. Look for places to buy heirloom seeds, real seeds that still have the nourishment and nutrition in them, because we're going to have to feed ourselves. Imagine it having to have your own bank. And my grandchildren, I said this to you, Mr. Lattimore, the last time we were on the show, your niece and nephew, my grandchildren asked me, why are you putting your money in a bank? Do you know these people? I was like, no, I met them, but do you go to their house to eat dinner? I've never seen them at the house. Why are you? They was like, so you don't know these people. And yet you're putting your money in a bank for what reason, Granny? You taught us about silver and gold and having your own banks, but you're putting money. And I had to try to explain this.
Well, when a lot of these banks crash, we'll change our mentality on having money stored in banks, because any bank that crashes, they are not going to release any of your money that's in those accounts. They're going to crash with your money inside of them. And it's funny, like people have safety deposits. Well, if you're storing your gold and your silver in the bank's safe deposits, if anything happens, if that bank collapses, you might not get all of they have insurance, so they'll cover you up to a certain amount, and that's being optimistic about it. But even so, it's not going to be 100% of what you had in there.
Thank you, Mr. Lattimore. I just want to give a shout out to J. Cole, who just sent me a Cash App gift. He said, great show, sis. Thank you, J. Cole. I also want to thank John Griffin, who said, this is simple support for gratitude. Thank you so much for the gift. You all are amazing. Sister Vanessa says gratitude. Sister Linda says manifesting abundance. Much love and appreciation to you. I love this exchange of energy. We give information, we give love, we give up our time, and people exchange their energy by being here for us, sharing comments in the comment section, and also giving us a contribution. So I'm very grateful. Thank you, Mr. Lattimore. This has been amazing.